Welcome to Trailblazers and Titans with your host, Dr. Keith Haney. Trailblazers and Titans is your go-to podcast for insights, inspiration, and actionable advice from the world's most successful entrepreneurs and leaders. Each episode features in-depth interviews with industry pioneers, innovative thinkers, and business moguls who share their journeys, challenges, and strategies for success. Whether you're an aspiring entrepreneur, a seasoned leader, or someone looking to make a significant impact, this podcast provides the tools and motivation to blaze your trail and become a titan in your field. Tune in to learn, grow, and transform your vision into reality.
My guest today is Dr. Jamar Montgomery. He is a polymath spanning engineering, law, finance, and technology. A prodigy, he earned a mechanical engineering degree at 19 before becoming the youngest weapons system engineer in U.S. naval history. He later obtained a JD MBA in finance, clerked for the Louisiana State Senate and U.S. Attorney's Office, and advised on counterterrorism at Booz Allen Hamilton. A blockchain pioneer since 2016, Dr. Montgomery has spoken at Davos, African NXT, and the All Black National Convention, advising influencers like Kanye West and U.S. presidents. He has led tech policy research at New America, defended youth as a juvenile public defender, and ran for U.S. Senate in Louisiana in 2020. A thought leader in the blockchain and governance, he continues to shape policy, innovation, and educational globally. We welcome him to the podcast. Well, Jamar, welcome to the podcast. How you doing today?
I'm doing incredibly well, man. How are you?
I'm great. I can't complain about one thing. Well, I could complain, but then people just turn the podcast off. So
I don't know, man. You might get some people trauma bonding with you. Oh, he's going through the same thing.
That's right. He's also whining. So I like to ask my guests this question: what's the best piece of advice you ever received?
The best piece of advice that I ever received. That is a great question. Probably the best piece of advice I've ever gotten was probably the advice that I've ever gotten has been the advice that I have forgotten.
Okay.
Why do I say that? Because oftentimes people will give us advice, but it doesn't necessarily stick with us. Right? So the best piece of advice that I have received has been, that's a great question. Oof. Best piece of advice that I've received. The only rights that you have are the ones that you exercise.
I like that. And how is that advice you forgot to use? How has that impacted your life?
It's impacted my life in a number of ways, and understanding that you will be in situations where if you don't take action, then you'll often be a victim of inaction. You'll be a victim of circumstance. And so oftentimes we're trained and brought up in a culture that it says follow the rules, and yet there's so many rules that you don't even know what to follow. But we think of rules in terms of things that guide our behavior versus rules that constrain somebody else's behavior. So if you don't even know what your rights are, right, meaning that is something that nobody else can infringe upon, then you'll never be able to exercise them. So the only rights that you actually have are the ones that you exercise.
I like that. I'm curious. I looked at your background and your bio, and you have had a very diverse and impactful background. But I'm curious, as you think about your life, who were some of the people that served as mentors or maybe inspiration for you on your journey?
My two adopted grandfathers of Freddie Hatcher, Freddie Johns Jr. and goodness gracious, Mr. Hatcher. These were my mentors that ended up being like grandfathers. John R. Hatcher III and Freddie Lee Johns, my
And
two adopted grandfathers.
what made them so stand out in your mind so much, and how they impacted you?
I got to spend a considerable amount of time with them as a younger man, in my early 20s, and then in my late 20s and early 30s. These men were. Mr. Hatcher was in his 70s when I met him, and this man was as sharp as a scalpel. Had been the president of the Ventura County NAACP for about 28 years at that time, and he was really a king in his own right. He taught me about community advocacy, activism, being a true liaison, and how to exercise power as a person of influence in a community and in a city and in a county. A lot of my focus has been on social justice, and community building, and then with Freddie Lee Johns, now I got to learn what it was like to be a king in the business world, how to operate as a king in your family, a king in the business world, and the connections between business and community. So those two men, with Mr. Johns, I was with him every day from like 2018 to when he passed in 2022. When I was in law school, I would come up and either spend the summer with him, or every month I was coming up to visit him. This was when I was in law school, so from basically 2013 to 2022, I had been involved in, this man had been involved in my life. And in 2014, I actually stayed with him during the summer and learned his business and things like that. And so that's really where our relationship started to get deeper. With Mr. Hatcher, I knew Mr. Hatcher from 2009, 2010, up until he passed into 2017. And from 2010 to 2013 was when I was living in Ventura County. And being with him, I was his driver. I would get off work. I was his driver. He appointed me vice president of legal redress for the Ventura County NAACP, and he really taught me how to, just how powerful a letter is. And he was the inspiration for me going to law school, because I watched him and his knowledge of the law and how he was able to help people who had been discriminated against, people who had issues with the police, and really utilizing the law in that sense. So, yeah. Those two men really were foundational in my construction of the man that I am today. And, of course, my dad, but it's a difference when you have the parents that you are given versus the people of influence that you choose.
I like that. How did you shift from being the youngest mechanical engineer to law? Just kind of give me that journey, because it's an interesting shift in terms of where you started from to where you are now.
Absolutely. So what happened was I was going through like custody battle and that kind of thing. Many people don't necessarily realize this, but I was a victim of childhood sexual assault. And so my daughter's mother is actually 9 years older than me, and started, I guess you could say, grooming me at the age of 17, and she was 26. I ended up having a daughter with her, and I was going through all that legal nonsense and rigmarole, and I'm paying lawyers and this, that, and the third. And then at the same time, here it is my mentor. I'm watching him utilize the Civil Rights Act of 1964, Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, and I'm watching him write letters and getting things done. And so, he put it in my heart. He was like, you know what, I'm going to make you chair of legal redress. Now you're going to learn how to utilize this stuff and how this stuff is done. And it was probably one of the best things that he could have did. Then he's like, you know what? Since you like to argue and you like to make your point, he said, you should really think about going to law school. And I'm like, man, I ain't thinking about no law school. Like, I'm cool. I don't like lawyers. You know, I barely like the one that I'm paying right now. He's a good lawyer. Don't get me wrong. Don't
Right.
get me wrong. But if I didn't have to pay, it would be I'd like him even more, right? But um, it was it was once I had finished up probably one of the biggest missions in my career with where Kim Jong Un was getting ready to launch his first ballistic missiles, and I was put on one of the teams to go out there and help prepare the Korean U.S. Navy to shoot those missiles down. After a successful mission, I came back and I was like, okay, what's next? What's next? I went to my command. I went to my command. I said, hey, you know what? I like this patent law stuff. I think that it would be good where you guys are getting into creating more, developing more products. It would be good to have an engineer who knows what we do, who also goes to law school. So instead of you having to pay somebody else to do this work, this is something I can do. Oh, my command, him and Hod. Oh, we don't know this, that, and the third. I said, no problem. Put in my 2 weeks notice. And in that 2 weeks, I got meetings with people that I had been trying to get meetings with for the last year and a half, trying to get me to stay. And I was like, no, if you guys weren't going to support me then this is just a trap to try to get me to stay. And literally, 2 weeks later, I was gone.
That's an interesting leap from counterterrorism to law. How did you end up in the counterterrorism part of that? Because that's also a fascinating position to be to be in as well.
So I went from working for the U.S. Navy as a weapons systems engineer to law school, and I ended up getting a position with Booz Allen Hamilton, and they were working on the countering violent extreme organizations. They were on that contract, and so I got involved in that because they saw, oh well, you have this defense background, you also have some intelligence experience, and so we want to be able to utilize that for this project that we're working on. So it was exciting work. It was fun work. It was fun work.
And then you also made a run for Louisiana Senate. Now I'm from Louisiana, so
Where in Louisiana?
Baton Rouge.
Oh, Baton Rouge. Okay, well, I went to Southern.
I did. Oh, you did. I didn't know that.
Yeah. Southern
I did too.
I got. What'd you major in?
Computer science.
Computer science. Yeah, I got my law degree and my MBA from Southern.
All right.
Yeah.
A fellow Jaguar.
His fellow Jaguar. You know it. You know it.
So tell us about the running for Louisiana Senate.
I ran for U.S. Senate in the
U.S.
state of
Senate.
Louisiana. Yeah. So that was that was an incredible experience. Because at the time, I was also working as a juvenile public defender. So the blessing is that this was during the pandemic, so people were able to be remote. So that gave me a lot of freedom to move around. And here it is I'm running for office. What inspired me was two things. I was teaching I had just finished a teaching contract with Southern University in Shreveport. I was teaching political science, and while I was teaching political science, I was also as a public defender. So I was like, my students and my clients, right? My students who are quote unquote supposed to be the best, right? They're going to college, trying to do something with their lives, and then my clients who are also the best, but found themselves in some bad situations.
Right.
Both feel the same way about their government. And I said, there's got to be something to be done about this. And so I said, you know what? I'm going to run on a platform of juvenile justice reform, bigger, better business, social action and education, bigger, better business, social action and education, right? So juvenile justice reform, smart business regulations, blockchain and crypto education. That's the platform that I was running on. And you really get to see why our political system is the way that it is. And our system is the way that it is because people are disengaged from our system. And people think that people will get emotional about politics when they don't realize that it's about money. And so if they can keep you in your emotions, they can keep you distracted from the money. And our political system is run by money. It is run by people who are ruthlessly focused on staying in power. And our system is the way that it is because people are easily swayed by their emotions and not by facts.
I want to dig a little deeper into the juvenile justice reform part, because I've had a couple guests on recently talking about the justice system and how, like you kind of mentioned, it is disproportionately unfair to poor people. Race plays a part in it, but I almost think that it's, if you have money, it doesn't matter what color you are, justice works better for you, a little better. But it seems like a lot of people who don't have money and resources get caught up in a system, and it kind of traps them into something they can't get out of. Just kind of give me your thoughts about juvenile justice reform.
Well, the system can either use you or you can use the system. Right? The system can either use you or you use the system. And what does that mean? The system is either getting money off of you or you're getting money off the system. Now, oftentimes we don't like to think of, oh, well, I don't want to get money off the system. Well, what do you think every government contractor is doing?
Right.
Right? And so when you think about, okay, well, the system getting money off of you, well, what do you think that when they put you in jail and they give you and they fine you, what is the system doing? Getting money off of you. The juvenile justice system, race plays a part into it, socioeconomics plays a part into it, and there's a high correlation between your socioeconomics and race. How can I say that even more clearly? As a black people are caught up in a system that they refuse to take responsibility for. We get used by a system that we refuse to take responsibility and take control of. Point blank, period. We have accepted what other communities' evaluation and research of us is versus having our own scholars that, like Dr. Tommy J. Curry with Black Male Studies, of having a rethinking of what our community looks like and what our community needs are. So, yes, we do need more black police officers, but we need more black police officers that are accountable to a police civil review board, that are accountable to a city council or your city commissioners. Those are the kinds of things that you need. So if you want systematic change, then you have to make changes within the system. And you, as an individual, as a hard-working person, you have to make it important that you show up to the PTA meetings, that you show up to the school board meetings, that you show up to the city council meetings, that you show up to the city commission, the county commission meetings. Because then if they see that you are a consistent face there, they know that you care about these things, and they fear that you might actually have influence because you're the one that's showing up when so many people don't. I don't feel as if I fully answered your question, so let me know if there's any other ways where I need to clarify.
Well, I like what you said, and I do think the involvement of the community is important. If you were advising, our community as to how do you make sure that you get the most out of the system and the system is not working against you, what are some common things that every person needs to be aware of to get the most out of the system?
Be willing to take the risk of a criminal, but not be a criminal. What do I mean? What do I mean? The reason why our kids turn to crime or those kinds of acts is because they want nice things too, and they don't have a way of getting them. Like we look at crime as if it's a moral issue versus it being an economic issue. And the hungrier that you get, the hungrier that you get, the more loose your morals will become. That is human nature. And so now it's about, okay, how can I put you at a how can I put you at a particular place where, how can I instill into you the values of risk taking, of entrepreneurship, the same thing that many criminals have. Maybe not necessarily entrepreneurship, but definitely being risk hungry, being able to instill that in our children, but point it into the right directions, point it into the areas of entrepreneurship, point it into the areas of creativity. Those are one of the ways. It, we don't I don't feel like we prepare our children for the realities of where they're at, of what they're going to be facing. Yes, the cop may look at you this particular way if you're dressed this particular way. Is it fair? Is it right? No, it's not. But your goal here is to win, not to just do whatever you want to do. It's recognizing the system that you're in and being able to not adapt to it, but adapt above it and be ahead of it. And that's the challenge, is that, who wants to be able to tell their kids, like, you can't do what the other kids do, right? You can't do what the other kids do. It's a horrible reality to live. Horrible reality to live in. However, these are the things in which I want you to do to set yourself up for even greater success, because you're going to be doing something different than everybody else. There's going to be challenges and barriers that you're going to have to overcome that everybody else isn't going to have to go through. Don't shun those barriers. Embrace those barriers. Why? Because when the road becomes easier for you, you've already built up more of a resilience muscle. You've already built up more of an endurance muscle than any of your peers.
I like that. I like what you said too, and I hadn't thought of it this way before. I don't think it's a lack of hustle in our community, because the hustle is there. It's just how you, like you said, how you direct your energies and your work. Because a lot of people who are making it on the streets are willing to work hard, but they're working hard for the wrong thing. How do we redirect that hustle, that hard work, that even that ingenuity? I mean, some of it's really, if you look at some of the criminals who get arrested, I'm impressed with their ingenuity. It's just directed in the wrong place and the wrong energy. And so I like how you said that.
Yeah, it's once again, it's embracing. It is such a complex problem, and particularly where you see the breakdown is in single parent households.
Yeah.
Because it's, as much as people would like to say differently, men provide a balancing force, or even a directing force that our women just are unable to do. They weren't designed to do that. And so I was outside with my mom one day, and she was watching this little white boy with his dad, just going and jumping into the pool. He had to be like 2.
Right.
It just two, just jumping into the pool, jumping into his dad's arms. And I told my mom, I said, we don't do that. That doesn't happen with our children. It'll happen with if their dad's involved, but that doesn't happen with our children. She's like, what do you mean? I said, that little boy right now is being taught to be comfortable with risk. He's being taught to be comfortable with risk, that I can go and take this jump out here and my dad's here. I said, now imagine a dad doing that. Any dad is going to be, most dads are going to be in that position. But what happens if you don't grow up with a dad? Our women are not built that way to be like, they're built to protect. They're built to try to keep them safe. So if it looks like anything that's unsafe, then you're going to, hey, don't get involved in that. What's risky? Starting a business. What's risky? What doesn't provide stability? starting a business. So these are the things, and once again, so when we see this level of ingenuity, that ingenuity is always there, but the direction of what a father provides wasn't.
I love that. I'm curious, in your working in the juvenile justice department, how has that influenced your view of justice and advocacy today? You say you're working in that field now. How is that impacting what you do today?
It's made me callous. It's made me callous. It's made me callous, and it's made me jaded, and it's made me. I wouldn't know. It hasn't made me jaded. It's made me callous. It's made me callous, and it's made me callous because we give ourselves excuses. We give ourselves excuses. We give ourselves excuses. Everybody's got a role, even if it's getting rolled over, and we spend so much of our resources on people who have made it in their hearts and made it in their minds that they're going to do wrong, instead of focusing on the people who should have a chance, and that's our children. That's number one, is our children. But we focus so much time and our energy, we as a people, we focus so much of our time and energy on the wrong things, on stupid things. I'm at the IEEE AI OT, which is AI and IoT, which is Internet of Things. IEEE is like the people who set the standards, electrical standards.
Okay.
Right? The Institute for something of Electrical Engineers. I'm here, and there may be one or two Black Americans here. Everyone else here is South Asian. This is the future.
And nobody's there but you, you and a few other people, right?
Like our interests need to change. Our priorities need to change, and you wonder why our children are in the situation that our children are in this particular situation now. It should be of no surprise that they become adults that are dependent on minimum wage jobs in the future. They're not in the places where they need to be. And we as parents, are we busy? Absolutely. Are there things that are going on? Yes. But it's like the amount of people that I have tried to tell about AI, about blockchain, about cryptocurrency, and they just brush it off. And I say, well, I'm trying to make you rich, but I don't mind being the only rich person around.
So why do you think the resistance to... So I just saw that in an article today in the news that some 401ks, the new administration is allowing people to invest their retirement in crypto. But even the report was, but people are very leery of crypto, even though crypto could have a real huge impact on their future investments. So what's the holdback for people getting into crypto?
People don't understand it. That's one. People don't understand it, and that's the number one holdback, is people don't understand it. The second holdback is, even if you don't understand it, you don't know who to trust.
Yeah. You have too many Barry Madoff stories, right?
You have too many you have too many Bernie Madoff stories, but at the same time it's like, well, that's the part about risk. That's the part about risk. And I look at people. I've had classmates come up to me like, dude, you were telling us about this in law school. We didn't listen. Man, you told me to do this and I didn't. And I kind of shrugged and I said, nobody listens to the man with 3 degrees. Nobody listens to the genius, but that's okay.
But it's a
why?
rapper though.
It's okay, right? Watch this.
Right.
So the thing is I'm too close to you. You think that because what I don't necessarily know your situation, but the simple fact that we're in the same place, you're like, well, this person is my peer, and this person is in the same situation that I'm in. So you can tell what people are thinking by what they do. So if you're like, this man's telling me about crypto, this man's telling me about crypto, and he's wearing combat boots, and he's wearing combat boots and basically kind of the same outfit every day. What the hell do you know?
Right. But you've been involved in blockchain since 2016. So tell us what drew you to that technology? Being an engineer, I'm sure that had something to do with it, but
100% being an engineer. 100% being an engineer. I heard about blockchain. I heard about Bitcoin back in 2013, 2012, 2013, on a website called Gizmodo, and I was like, they were talking about how it was used for the black market and the deep what is it, the goodness gracious, I don't know why my brain is failing me. The dark web. There
oh
we
yeah,
go.
dark web.
On the dark web. Well, at the time I had a clearance, so I wasn't trying to be involved in anything that may have been necessarily illicit. Then in 2016, I come across some financial educators, um, Reggie Middleton, and he was talking about finance and he was talking about crypto, and I said, what? Programmable money, smart contracts, and I go and read the Ethereum white paper. That was it for me. I remember where I was at. I was in DC. I was in Washington DC at the time. I was staying in this lady's basement. I was renting out her basement, and I read the white paper, and from then on, it was over. I'm talking about every waking moment. I'm researching crypto. I'm researching and understanding and really understanding this technology. And in 2017, I built a coin. I found another individual that was just as passionate about it as I was, and we ended up building a coin together called Amy.
So for those people who don't understand the whole crypto Bitcoin thing, kind of give us a Reader's Digest explanation of it.
Absolutely. So first off, the crypto is built on top of a technology called blockchain. The same way that any house that you have is built on top of a particular foundation. So uh, blockchain acts as if a digital ledger. So imagine, have you ever dealt with like Google Sheets or
Yes.
Google Docs, right?
Yep.
And on Google Docs, you can see when somebody makes a change, right? You can grant people access to your document and they can change it, and you
Right.
can see who makes changes and who doesn't. Well, think of that. Think of like a Google Sheets where anybody who has access to the internet is able to see it, and they're able to make transactions or inputs onto it. However, nobody is allowed to erase anything.
Okay.
Okay, and the more transactions that occur, the more secure that it gets, because the only way in which you're able to add more what we call blocks onto it, it's like every transaction goes into a block, and once those blocks get filled, that block gets linked to the previous block, and then the cycle repeats all over again. Well, the longer that the chain gets, the more secure that it gets, because nobody's able to erase blocks off of it, and nobody's able to erase transactions off of it. We figured out a way of utilizing this ledger system, this digital accounting system, as a way of actually exchanging value, and in some ways even acting as money. So blockchain is the underlying technology, and it allows for you to have a not immutable but almost immutable ledger system that cannot necessarily be changed. Now you said, okay, I have a secure technology, or somewhat secure technology, that allows me to do transactions. Let me build a company on top of it. Oh, but you know what? I don't want to go through I don't want to go through the New York Stock Exchange in going public. So you know what? I'm going to issue these things called tokens, which in some ways act like equity. But the difference with tokens is that it can act like equity, or it could actually give you access to the actual technology. And I can get into that. I can get deeper into that. But for the 30,000 foot explanation, cryptocurrency acts like venture capital for the 99%. Most of the time, we as individuals don't have access to the next to the Ubers, to the next Uber. Before Uber went public, before Palantir, before Google went public, they had investors, and those were usually venture capital or even private equity. In order to have access to those kinds of opportunities, you have to have a certain net worth. Well, crypto allowed for you to have access to these startup companies without having to go through venture capital. Now they could offer you direct equity directly without having to go through the public process, but it was open on the internet so that anybody around the world could participate.
So the question I'm sure people are asking is, that's interesting. How do you make money in this process with what you just explained?
Absolutely. The simplest way of making money in this process is, and I'll preface this is not financial.
Right. We're not telling you to go invest.
It's not financial advice. This is technological education.
And what's the other part of it too? Past results do not predict future results.
Absolutely. Future returns.
Yeah, future returns.
Yep. It is the finding crypto projects that are providing a lot of value to the particular space. Let me give you an example. So most people think that much of crypto is a scam, and you could say that 90% of crypto projects don't provide any other real value except the fact that you now have a community of people who believe that this thing is going to go up. That's it. Then you have companies that have partnered with Swift. Are you familiar with what Swift is?
No, what's Swift?
Swift is the system that banks use internationally for their communications.
Okay.
So now I find out that a company is building technology for Swift, which all the banks around the world utilize. Is that useful?
Oh yeah.
A company that provides such an important service wouldn't invest in another company if they weren't providing something valuable.
Right.
Now imagine you as an individual are able to buy tokens from this particular company. Do you think that would be valuable?
Oh, I think so.
So there are crypto companies, and that company that I just talked about, that I just gave you that example, is called Chainlink.
Okay.
What we're now doing is, what people don't realize is that the traditional system, the traditional banking system, the traditional equities stock system, they're trying to figure out ways of putting it on the blockchain. The reason why they're trying to figure out ways of putting it on the blockchain is because the New York Stock Exchange closes at a certain time, right?
Right.
Blockchain is a 24-hour market, global market. Imagine now if I brought that same stock that I have in Google, and instead of having it being limited to the New York Stock Exchange, that I'm able to put that stock on the blockchain. It moves a lot faster. I don't have to worry about what we call the counterparty risk, which means that somebody can sell me something that they don't necessarily have, or what we call shorting a stock.
Yes, like they did with what's that thing? The
Big Short.
GameStop, right?
GameStop, yes. So now we're these traditional companies that are telling you that you shouldn't buy crypto. Why are they secretly buying crypto?
I don't think they want me to get in on it on the game, probably.
why do you think that they have secret memorandums of understanding or MOAs um, with companies that own crypto, that when it gets to this particular level that we'll go ahead and buy it from, we'll buy the company from you, and now we'll offer crypto services to our clients that we were telling them that we're not involved in.
Interesting.
Something to think about. JP Morgan calling Bitcoin a fraud and this, that, and the third, and then within the next year and a half, you're going to see that JP Morgan and other banks are going to be holding Bitcoin on their actual balance sheets.
Wow. So, tell me a little bit about. I'm fascinated by the Bitcoin thing. Tell me how the trading works with crypto.
It's as simple as opening up a Coinbase account, which is you'll go through the same process as if you opened up a Charles Schwab account or a Ameritrade account. Same thing, except for instead of buying stocks, you'll be buying crypto through Coinbase. So, can you day trade cryptos? Yes, absolutely. I don't recommend it. That's not. Let me rephrase it. That's not my style.
Right.
That's not my style. I like to buy and hold. So when I was unemployed for a year, it was investments that I made in crypto 3 years before that I was able to cash out a portion of it, and that replaced my entire yearly salary.
Wow. So we just been talking about, people in our neighborhood, our community. What would you recommend for them if they want to get into crypto and they don't know a lot about it? What would be the best method to do that for people?
Check out my YouTube. Check out my website, drjamarmontgomery.com. I have a video called. I put on a seminar for some seniors, and it was called. It's either Bitcoin or crypto for seniors, but I think it was Bitcoin for seniors, where I give an explanation. Go through an hour, and I can send you that link for that video.
That'd be great, because I'll put in the show notes.
It's really just getting familiar with the technology, and what I would say is that it starts with opening up a Coinbase account, and then after you open up a Coinbase account, I have a list of coins that I like buying, and taking $100 a month and just investing it if you take it in Bitcoin, and I treat it like a long-term savings account.
Yeah, it's good. I could spend all day talking about crypto, because I think it's. I do think it's the next phase that we're. Oftentimes, you can talk about we are the last ones to figure out about it, and then by the time you get into it, it's, you're like a day late, $1 or short.
We didn't heard about it. We just ain't operating on it. Why? Because we don't understand it. Well, you didn't understand that girl that you was over there messing with.
Right.
Didn't stop you from being curious.
Right. So I'm always curious. I love to ask my guests this question, Jamar. What do you want your legacy to be?
What do I want my legacy to be? Of course, your first legacy is your children. Your first legacy is your children. My legacy, I want my legacy to be of empowered individuals who impacted the world in positive ways. That when you look at those that came under my tutelage, that came under my mentorship, that they are all successful individuals that are making real impact in the world. That's what I want my legacy to be. That when people think, like, I learned this from Dr. Jamar Montgomery, that I learned this, how to do this, and I put my own spin on it. That's what I want my legacy to be.
I love that. Where can people find you and connect with you on social media?
www.drjamarmontgomery.com, Dr. Jamar Montgomery on IG, Dr. Jamar Montgomery on TikTok, Dr. Jamar Montgomery on YouTube.
You would think there'd be more Jamar Montgomerys, though.
Yeah, I'm glad that that lets you know that there can only be one. You will find that there is a Jamar Montgomery that used to play for the Colorado Buffs.
Okay. But he doesn't do Bitcoin.
No, he don't.
Oh, okay.
He don't.
So don't take Bitcoin advice from him then. Is what you tell me.
Absolutely.
Well, Jamar, thanks so much for being such an amazing guest and providing such great content. I'd love to have you back on again. Maybe we just do one whole podcast on Bitcoin. I think we could dig a little deeper into that, but I really appreciate the time you've given to this topic.
Absolutely. It's great speaking with you, Dr. Haney.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Trailblazers and Titans. If you enjoyed our conversation and found value in the insights shared, please subscribe to our podcast and leave us a review. Your feedback helps us reach more listeners and continue bringing you the stories of the world's most inspiring leaders. Don't forget to follow us on social media for updates and exclusive content. Join our community of Trailblazers and Titans, and let's continue to learn, grow, and transform our visions into reality together. Until next time, keep blazing your trail and striving for greatness.